Harry's wife. The cringe is strong. Video analysis. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry and Harry's wife have a multiplicity of nicknames. For Harry, there's the Prince of Pink Pancakes, Ginger Bollocks, the Ginger Poodle, the Ginger Dimwit, and many more besides. Harry's wife, well, how long have you got? Megain, migraine, methane, the grifter, the wife, Harry's wife, of course. The Duchess of Industrial Beige, the Duchess of Duplicity, the Duchess of Delusion. The list is long. Together, of course, they are the gruesome twosome, and also Ginge and Cringe. And, of course, her behaviour is deemed cringeworthy as a consequence of the instances where she, in effect, the facade doesn't always protect her. There's little cracks in it, or the behaviours that she engages in do not sit with other behaviours, which demonstrates her repeated and rampant hypocrisy, which, of course, is evident with many narcissists. The fact of her behaviours is such that many people see her engaging in this forthright manner, the shoving in front of Prince Harry, which we've seen on many occasions, the getting in front of the Queen, the self-centred seeking out the camera, the bandwagoning. Over and over again, people have spoken about the way that she is cringe-inducing. And here we have a little piece of video footage for your entertainment, which demonstrates her cringeworthy behaviours but bears up to analysis. It's only short and shows two separate occasions. The latter I have analysed in greater detail in parts passim, but I'll go through it once again because it's only a short part of the larger analysis that I've done. But I'm going to show you the video footage, which is taken from two separate instances, and then tell you what you're actually seeing. Here we go.
Last month, Harry warned the press to respect the privacy of his girlfriend, actor Meghan Markle.
Meghan, the hottest girl in the US,
Oh.
the #1 show in the United States of America. Amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Tremendous. I've had the best time in London. Fans are amazing. I've never been called love or darling more in my life, so it makes me want to stick around for a while. So for me, it's a lot of fun. Plus, I can borrow from her amazing closet, which, as a girl, I'm really pleased to be able to do. Amidst all of her human things that can perhaps... Who are you looking for? Ruben is like looking over my shoulder to try to find somebody else.
I'm just trying to make sure they're not wrapping me up.
Let's see who is. Who might it be that's on their way? Who's this?
That's Leslie.
Is she here tonight?
The video commences with Harry's wife not being noticed, that she is looking down and looking around, and then all of a sudden when she notices somebody, because they wave to her, which of course demonstrates that that particular appliance, be they tertiary or secondary in nature, their wave is a positive piece of fuel, so she receives that fuel from that individual, and it's a reasonable dollop because they're physically proximate to her. So she sees that person's look in their eyes, no doubt warm and friendly. They're smiling at her. There's the body language with the wave, and therefore there is a decent dollop of proximate fuel coming from either a low potency or moderate potency appliance. There's no issue with control. They've demonstrated that they are under control, and she's receiving that fuel. And therefore her narcissism causes her to respond by all of a sudden, and quite ridiculously, almost springing into life with that sort of secretarial shaking out your hair and taking off the glasses and, "Why, Miss Jones, you're beautiful" moment. It's completely exaggerated, but it is demonstrative of the way that she conducts herself and her behaviours, that she responds in this manner, the over-the-top, "Hello, darling," and immediately goes into that over-egging the pudding response. Her narcissism compels her to do that because she's powered by the fuel that she's received and there's no threat to control. And rather than just give a gentle smile and a wave back, there has to be this exaggerated reaction of, "Oh, how thrilled I am to see you," which is generated, of course, by her narcissism. Of course, we also get the traditional brushing of the hair, is to say, look at my silken locks. Aren't I beautiful? Aren't I attractive? We then have a very close interview between a lady who I don't know who that is, and nor do I care, talking to Harry's wife, and the interviewer is gushing with supine praise for Harry's wife, which of course demonstrates that the interviewer is under control, no problem there, and is providing her with positive fuel. So it's all gravy for Harry's wife. And of course, we see the sort of simpering false humility of, oh, thank you, and the smile and the, oh, I'm so lucky, etc. But it's so obviously fake, because rather than go, oh, thank you, in a controlled and measured manner, it's over the top again, which demonstrates that she's not a particularly good actress, as we know. But also here, where her narcissism is compelling her to respond in this way to continue to assert control over the interviewer, it's demonstrably and noticeably false. We are then treated to, as usual, the brilliant and insightful observations of Harry's wife, saying that she's really enjoyed herself being in London and she's never been called love and darling so often. And it makes her want to stick around. Well, as we all know, it clearly didn't, because she fucked off. And she fucked off, as we know, as a consequence of the repeated threats to control. So her narcissism asserted control through the third assertion of control, withdrawal. Again, you'll notice that she's nothing meaningful to say, nothing of particular interest. It's all anodyne beigeness that spews from her mouth. And I can well imagine, as people's reactions to this, in seeing her over-the-top false responses to the praise that she's been offered. And whilst it's a cut interview, the small sections that you see demonstrate this over-the-top response. She's receiving fuel, the person's under control, so there isn't an issue. The second section, as I mentioned earlier, I have analysed this particular interview in much greater detail, so you can find that in Parts Passim if you'd like to dive into it more extensively. Here, there is one particular section that had been identified by the compiler of the short clip to demonstrate the cringe-inducing behaviour of Harry's wife, and she's being interviewed at a red carpet premiere for a new season of Suits by a young gentleman who earlier on she'd been sort of making eyes at and had been being flirtatious with as she sought to assert control over him. And in this instance, the relevant interviewer is looking over her shoulder at something else that's going on. Now, first of all, that's hardly surprising because Harry's wife isn't interesting, so you would easily get bored and look elsewhere. But also, as I understand it, he's looking elsewhere because somebody else was trying to attract his attention with regard to, I think, wrapping up and moving on. That, of course, is a big no-no with a narcissist, because you wound the narcissist. You're no longer giving the narcissist fuel, and by looking elsewhere over the shoulder of the narcissist, you're telegraphing that she's not interesting, which, of course, she isn't, but she thinks that she is. And because his fuel has gone elsewhere, not to her, and that he's not focused on her, he wounds her, and it's moderately substantial wounding because he's physically proximate to her. He's probably a tertiary source. She doesn't necessarily know who he is, or if she does, he's a non-intimate secondary source. So the wounding is not so harsh in that respect, but it's reasonably so as a consequence of it being done in person, that he looks elsewhere. And of course, we see her reaction to that. So prior to that moment, of course, he's listening and nodding, demonstrating that he's under control and providing her with fuel. And then the moment she notices that he's looking over her shoulder, she immediately turns round because she has to look at what he's doing. Rather than be professional and carry on talking and just think he'll look back at me in a moment, as he probably would have done, the wounding is such that it immediately causes her narcissism to kick into action to defend her. So she looks to see what he's looking at, can't work out what it is apparently, and then asks him immediately, "What are you looking for?" Breaking off from the interview, which is rather unprofessional, shows a lack of boundary recognition by posing the question of him. And then he basically knows he's been caught out. He's saying, "No, nobody," and tries to back away from it. And of course, at this juncture, rather than just carry on and go, as I was saying, Harry's wife has to make a big song and dance about it, in effect, to humiliate him. And she turns and directs herself as usual, finding the camera, of course, pretty easy in this instance because it's right next to her, but stares straight into it and basically is triangulating Ruben, the interviewer, by telling everybody else what a naughty boy he is because he's looking over her shoulder. Now, of course, people have already seen that. But, of course, she needs to emphasise his transgression. And at the same time, notice her left hand comes up and is placed upon him. As usual, she asserts control physically, as is her wont. Ruben explains why he was looking elsewhere. However, she then takes his questioning cards away from him, also showing a lack of boundary recognition and a sense of entitlement, and starts to read them. Rude behaviour, but it's hardly a surprise when it comes to Harry's wife. And she starts asking him about who's on there and asking who's Leslie and is she here tonight, etc., demonstrating the way that she deals with the nullification of the threat to control posed by his wounding is to call out his behaviour by mentioning it to the camera, in effect the audience, to humiliate him, belittle him, to assert control by putting her hand on him physically, to then take his cards and start to read them. Again, making it all about her and undermining what he's trying to do because he, of course, had the audacity to briefly look over her shoulder while she was speaking. 2 cringe-inducing moments, but also useful for you to understand in terms of how her narcissism functions. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.